Hello, everybody. Welcome to another Real Review with Real People. I'm here in the Villaggio Cinema, and we just watched Bohemian Rhapsody. Beelzebub has the devil put... I'll stop. Let's go see what the audience thought before we get to it.
I thought the last part was great. I felt like I was at Live Aid. That was awesome.
I thought it was awesome. It was really emotional, but it was really good.
This movie was awesome. Loved it.
The best ever.
Okay, so I'm used to him and Mr. Robot, so I was like, how is he going to express any emotion whatsoever like Freddie Mecury did? And he crushed it.
Oh my God. I think he did really, really awesome. He did it perfectly.
Yeah, well, it was mostly glowing reviews from the audience that came out. Let's break it down. I'm Andy Signore, and today stepping in for Lynn, it's Shannon. Hey, Shannon.
Hey.
And next to me is Pete. Pete, tell the audience what you do.
I'm a mailman.
Oh, it doesn't get any more real than that. I'm so happy to have Pete. He's a friend of ours, but Pete the mailman is here to review. Usually Pete's behind the camera, but today you're sitting in front of the camera, and we're going to break down Bohemian Rhapsody. Let's get straight to it. Rami Malek gives, I think, everyone's talking about it, but I think the first thing we just got to all address is that performance. He gives a fantastic performance. Someone said it in the review earlier, but I know him from Mr. Robot. I was worried that was going to become a distraction because he's such a deep, weird character on that show, but I think this film is just the perfect card he needed to prove he is a fantastic actor that got lost in that role, and I think is going to be nominated, and really sold, I think, we'll get to the movie itself, but really sold that performance better than I think probably a lot of other people could have done. What did you guys think of Rami? Let's start with you, Shannon.
It was great. What I really loved was that he captured every possible emotion that a person has, so it just felt like a life journey, like the anger, the frustration, the sadness, the needing to be included, to be loved. It was just all captured, and I don't know, it just felt like the human experience that he did a really good job at capturing that. Like if he does not get nominated or even win that Oscar, it's just, I don't know.
Pete, do you agree?
I fully agree. In fact, that I think I mentioned earlier that I don't think Sacha Baron Cohen could have touched that performance. That was amazing.
Yeah, it's interesting, and I'm glad you brought that up because I want to talk about that because the rumors of the film is that he was Sacha Baron Cohen, Borat, Bruno was attached to do this for the longest time, and I think could have done a pretty good job. But the reasons they say he backed out is because he wanted to do a more hard-hitting expose of Freddie Mercury and the real gritty story of Queen, and Queen, the band members who own the rights, were like, well, no, we want to sell more CDs and do this more positively. And I think, when I heard that, I got sad because I was like, well, no, don't ruin the movie. Let's see the real gritty movie. But I do think now seeing the film, Rami did bring a new layer to it. I think the reason they went more popular with it was probably wise. They're going to sell more tickets and more CD sales, I think, from this film. But I do have to say my only critique of the film is I do feel like there were moments that felt kind of TV movie-esque that I think they were rushing through beats, and pretty much for the first half it really is sort of the making of Bohemian Rhapsody. Like they make that sort of such a big deal, but it's actually that was the thing I was most curious about. But they really hit it hard, and I don't know how much of that was true, to be honest. It's hard to tell. Freddie didn't get to chime in on this. Obviously, he's no longer with us. But it was an interesting story. What did you think of the Bohemian Rhapsody part?
So I agree with you. In the very beginning of the movie, I watched it, and I was thinking, Hollywood season clickbait. They have the typical beats of I need to break out, all that, and I wasn't sold on it until that scene when they created that song. I feel like it touches that creative part that every person has in a way that most films don't, and that's just seeing that aspect. I threw everything from the plot, the idea of trying to knock all those pieces out, because that didn't matter. They were really just focusing on the art of the music and why that emotion behind each song.
Yeah, I mean, the art of the music was key in the movie, and that's what when you want the biopic, you really want to know sort of what really happened. You want the gritty details of who was fighting with who. Like, you want the behind the music sort of tale. So I was left with, like, is that really how it went down? Who knows? But there are schmaltzy moments to this movie, but I kind of didn't care. I thought they were effective. By the second half, they sold me, and it's a movie. It has to do that, and I think there's probably, I've seen some reviews and critics who are sort of knocking it for sort of relying on those beats, but it's a commercial, crowd-pleasing movie. That's what the goal of the movie is, and I think by the second half, it did win me over. I do wish we could have probably gotten some more reality to it, because I'm sure it's not perfect, but, it's Freddie's story, and I think they really did a good job of selling it. the other thing I loved, there was a lot of little things, but like, I mean, it seemed pretty obvious to me, but that whole Bohemian Rhapsody scene, being told to Mike Myers and having Mike Myers be the guy who's like, no one will ever sing that song, I thought was kind of cute and cheeky, as Mike Myers might say. What did you think? Was that too on the nose for you? Did you enjoy that moment?
I really enjoyed that moment as well. But beyond that, like the way that they presented it just cinematically, like when they'd play it, they'd show different shots from the video just through the background. It was amazing.
Yeah, it was smart.
On a storytelling perspective, what I like about that scene is that they find a way to tie it back as a bow ribbon at the very end. And I won't spoil how they do it, but it's really creative. So as a writer, I'm like, I got you. I know what you did right there.
Yeah, but like to me, like the Bohemian Rhapsody moment is one of those moments where you're like, you just hear that song. Every time I hear that song, I go, what a genius song! Like, who thought like the layers to that song? Like, I could see why someone would be like, this is nonsense. Why are we doing it? But then all these years later, like I played that song for my kid and he loved it, and it was just like the sonic experimentation and things they do and shifts they go. It's sort of just. It just speaks, I think, to Freddie Mercury, but that's what I'm curious. Was that all him? It seems like they were sort of bringing other elements and musical drum things to really. They were getting excited and they were sort of jazzed by Freddie creatively pushing them. So that part was really fascinating. The creative process, I agree, was fun to watch.
It was also a story of outcasts. I mean, I'm part of the outcast group. Like, it's a story of like people that just don't fit in society and wave their flags, and then people are flocked to that because they find their confidence. They just find their confidence in who they are and their passion and their music. And I don't know, I really loved it.
Yeah, when I think you just spoke to it, what the core of the movie was finding your confidence, and that's sort of really what the Freddie Mercury story clearly, I mean, in this version of it, was supposed to be, of like how lost he was, and I think everyone obviously can relate to that, even if you've ever had any ounce of fame. We all get there, and it was. That's where I think, yes, was it a cliche TV movie to an extent in certain parts? Yes. It didn't bother me though because Rami sold it. Like, I was on the journey with him. I bought it, and they could have gone some places, I think, obviously, but you really felt for him. I didn't know the whole relationship with the wife was fascinating.
It's a good homage to him and the legend that he wants to put out there, I think.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's obviously the thing that's going to speak to most people is the music. They do a good job of showcasing it, and the choice to have Freddie Mercury sing the vocals and have Rami lip sync worried me a little bit because I'm like, how is he really going to get into the performance? But I got lost in it. He was so good at that, even that part of it, that he clearly had studied the songs. And then we were talking about it, but that moment at the end where the using Live Aid as a finale was really a brilliant, I think, storytelling technique. And I loved they sort of stopped the music for a little while, and then he finally comes out, and to hear, Freddie's real vocals from Live Aid come in those moments after all that story you've lived through, it just made it stronger in a way. And I think it was really a nice touch that they let that happen. Did you like that part?
Oh yes, definitely. And a thing that I think helped Remi's singing and his lip syncing was the fact that most of it that they used was live Freddie Mercury. It wasn't canned stuff. It wasn't stuff straight from the album.
Yeah,
the live part was even better. It was just like you could tell, like they just went to the strip. They must, I guess, the mix, or that was the real studio feed, board feed. But it was effective. Yeah, I mean, I wish they would have been a little less on the nose of just like wrapping up the loose ends of the mom smiling and all those things. But I get why they did it, and I'll forgive it because you want to leave happy. I mean, I'm sure there was so much more struggle to his life that I think would have been fascinating to learn. That bugged me a little bit, but I think at the end of the day, if you want to see the crowd-pleasing version of the Freddie Mercury movie, this is the movie for you. Final thoughts? Pete, let's end on you.
I think that I'd like to also mention that it's not just Rami Malek. Everybody was so well cast. They all looked exactly like the real people. Brian May, even Freddie's parents looked just like the photos. The casting was amazing.
Yes, very good point. It's easy to get lost in Freddie Mercury. The band clearly did several times in their career, but they also learned that they needed each other. The symbiotic relationship was key. Freddie Mercury was the front man, but Queen was the stability that brought them together, and that finale was fantastic. What did you guys think? Tell us in the comments below if you saw the film or if you're going to see the film. We'll be back here next week with another real review. Thanks so much for watching. Make sure to subscribe
and click the notification button down below.
All those things.